All right. Dr. Baker, what are your thoughts about the political implications of the carnivore diet? There appears to be a push to reduce meat consumption in the recent years.
Well, I mean, it's unfortunate that this has become politicized, and but the reality is, you know, there are people that have influence over policy that can affect agriculture, which can in turn affect what we have access to eat, and certainly, you'd have to be living under a rock to not realize that they have been uh, pushing for reduction in meat. That has been, uh, talked about for many, many years. They're asking nicely right now, which, we all have the right to say, we'll do what we want to do. The concern is if they decide not to ask nicely anymore. And I mean, realistically, the reductions in meat will not be, they're not going to say you're going to be forced to cut back, or we're going to, ban it in certain locations. Likely what they'll do is make farming very difficult. And really where we're going to see this is in the ranchers. They're going to be put under intense pressure. A lot of small ranchers will go out of business, so the food will be further centralized. So it is a concern. And, like I said, if you're concerned about your health and the future of your family's health and down the road, we all have to make it part of our mission. And so support your local ranchers, let your local politicians, and you're going to have more success. You're not going to write a letter to the president of the United States and expect him to read it. But what you can do is let your local people know about it. And the other thing you can do, most importantly, is you get a vote every day when you decide what you eat, what you buy at the store. And if you decide to support companies that continue to feed you garbage, you just give them more power. Essentially a vote for those people. So you got to vote with your pocketbook. You've got to let your wishes be known, and you have to stand strong, and you have to influence those around you. And like I said, this is something that is a real issue, and we're all in this fight. It's literally a war we're in.
Anyone else want to?
Yeah.
Many of the great thinkers throughout history have talked about limiting meat to the masses as a means of control, from Machiavelli to Plato. So, it doesn't surprise me at all when you hear people in the World Economic Forum talking about wanting you to eat crickets and bugs and all these other things, wanting you to, Bill Gates wanting you to eat digitally printed vegetable food or something. Well, I don't know what they're doing, but whatever they're doing, it has very little to do with your health and a lot more to do with having control over people.
Absolutely. And I think about that a lot lately too. I think what you said was awesome, Shawn, because my mom's got Parkinson's and she's back eating bad food, and I'm watching her kill herself. And I literally go in the kitchen. There's, donuts in there and all this crap that I've watched her get so sick on. And it just makes me so mad when I see that food. I'm like, I wouldn't eat that for anything in the world anymore, because it's like we're funding the war on ourselves. We're literally giving these people money to, make propaganda and shove this down our throats and get people addicted on it. And I really believe that. That struck a nerve with me.
May I comment?
Yeah, go ahead.
It went from the tobacco industry to the food industry, and basically we know that tobacco is not good for us, yet it was pushed on all of us. And now they switched it to push us onto non-meat products, plant products, which are highly processed and highly addictive and highly damaging. You need to talk to your local representatives, your state and national representatives. You have to write letters. You have to join your local cattlemen's association and work with your ranchers. And I did what Todd and Shawn said.
Yeah, the tobacco companies basically took over the food industry in a lot of ways. Back in the, I think it was the early 90s, R.J. Reynolds bought out several of the major food manufacturers, and they're using the same techniques they use to get people hooked on cigarettes. They want to get the doctors to agree with what they're saying, and they've used the things that are in the food, just like they did that are in the cigarettes, to keep you hooked.
Yeah, Philip Morris bought out Kraft, I think, in the 80s as well, and conglomerated a lot of food companies. No, it wasn't just Philip Morris. It was a lot of the tobacco companies bought up a lot of the food companies and just transitioned their same process, into processed food. So, yeah, it's just the same drug dealers pushing a different drug. basically.
If we pay extra, could we maybe get some grease or fat?
One of the things I do to fight back against big food and big pharma is to recommend companies that make animal-based products that are good for our bodies and good for our skin. In this case, I'm talking about Vintage Tradition. Vintage Tradition tallow balms are a go-to for me now, especially the unscented one. I like it because it doesn't have anything extra in it other than extra virgin olive oil and tallow rendered from suet. This is the interior fat, also called suet or kidney fat. For the tallow they use making the tallow balm. Highly saturated and therefore more therapeutic than any other. They don't use any trim fat or any other fats besides suet. So if you want some ancestrally appropriate skincare products that are going to help support the carnivore movement, head over to vintagetradition.com and use my discount code DANTE, D-A-N-T-E, to save 10% on your order. I promise you won't regret it. Their products are fantastic. I love them and I use them all the time.